Great. Well, bienvenue. Welcome, everyone. My name is Sebastian Silva. I'm phoning in today from Coast Salish territory of the Cowichan tribes and other local nations on Salt Spring Island, British Columbia. I want to extend a warm welcome to all of you. We're so grateful that you could be here today for this workshop, Mino Matisiwin, the philosophy of well-being according to the Algonquins. We're very, very honored today to have Elder Dominique Rankin and co-facilitator Marie-Josée Tardif joining us today. And I also honor where you are all standing this morning in the territories of the local peoples and communities that, that steward the lands where you live today. Before I turn it over to Dominique and Marie-Josée, just a few housekeeping notes. Translation was meant to be available in French today, la traduction simultanée. There is a button at the bottom of your screen. The interpreter was having internet issues, but we hope he or she has joined soon. And if they haven't and they join, we'll let you know in the chat. Please note that you are all muted and the chat function is off. And that's because we have over 100 participants and that becomes very difficult to manage. But please know that you can send us comments to the moderators and questions for Dominique and Marie-Josée at any time and we will see them. Before your circles and breakout groups, your microphones will be unmuted and you will be able to hear each other and speak. I want you to know that you will have the opportunity to ask questions today. So feel free anytime you have a question to put them in the chat bar, and I'll do my best to get as many to Marie-Josée and Dominique during question time. Please note that this meeting is being recorded, this workshop. So if you prefer, there's odds you're not on necessarily the first page, but if you prefer not to be recorded for sure, you can turn your camera off. But we do encourage you to turn the camera on when you go into breakouts. Very importantly, we want everybody here to feel safe and respected. So please be kind and considerate to everyone. If during the breakouts you're not feeling great or some of these Zoom bombers happen to be in your room, we doubt that that will happen, but if it does, you can leave your breakout anytime and come report it back to us. Also want you to know that there is a section on the event site for health and wellness support. So there are counselors, including Indigenous counselors, and resources that you can reach out to. Now it's my great pleasure to introduce Dominique Rankin and Marie-Josée. Elder Dominique Rankin has served his people as Grand Chief of the Algonquin Nation, as a senator for the Friendship Center movement, and in countless forums nationally and internationally. He comes to us today to share some of his teachings, and we are very grateful for his generosity and willingness to be with us today. Marie-Josée held a career as a journalist in Quebec, in Saskatchewan, and United Kingdom. She now works with Dominique and others to support reconciliation, including as an educator and advocate for Indigenous cultural resurgence and justice. Please join me in opening our ears and our hearts to what they have to share with us today. Could we all get a round of virtual applause?
Very much, merci. Ça y est, le micro est ouvert, tu peux parler, you can speak.
It's not easy for me with the computer. It's an honor to be here today. So my English is comme ci, comme ça, and my French too, and my language Algonquin is the best. So I learned many things from my dad and my mom. Life in the forest, traditional life. I passed my time with my mom and dad, all family, 7 years living in the forest. The lives is a difference today where I am in the house. Where I from, traditional land, time we use a teepee and prospector tent. I never saw a house before 6 years. I was 6 years old. The first time when I saw house. The same thing for white people. Today, we're going to talk about Mino Matisiwin. Mino Matisiwin is my language. Does that mean to be well anywhere where are you, what are you doing? If you have emotion, that's okay. So Mino Matisiwin is there to be well. And I would like to say good morning, everybody, and good afternoon. And my language is easy. We just say way for any time. Mino Matisiwin, I use that often because my life was many things past, all different teaching. I am survivor resident school. That's why I talk about Mino Matisiwin. What I'm doing to be Mino Matisiwin, because I believe first, I believe myself. So what I learned in the forest was a very, very Mino Matisiwin, because we are people, nomad people. We don't have a horse. We have a canoe. So every morning when I was young, my dad pulled me every morning. Come on, let's go see what's happened in the river. Today, you don't see that today, what I saw. Sometimes we saw moose very close. With no noisy. We just listen to birds or moose, wolf, all different spirit in the forest. We heard that when you in the canoe. I am very lucky to receive that everything when I was young. Lots of teaching coming to see me. And I learned first thing with my parents to help them. All different action, trapping, fishing, hunter. So I was a very, very curiosity. Curious.
Child.
Yeah, to learn everything. I use that today. I have two kids. My daughter and my son. He passed maybe 2 years ago now. He was a very good firekeeper. That's where Mino Matisiwin, you touch all different medicine when you talk about the Mino Matisiwin, like a sweat lodge. So I do often for myself to share on other people what exactly Mino Matisiwin is with Lodge. So, your turn, Jessica.
Yeah, okay. Hello, everyone. I'll help Dominic a little bit because in English he's not as quick as in French, unfortunately. Um, um, I think that the main thing I learned from all the philosophy from the ancestors about Mino Matisiwin is, I think the main first teaching is the word Anishinaabe that maybe you've heard before. Um, we used to say that Dominic is a Algonquin chief or person, but now probably you know that word more, the word Anishinaabe. And the nice thing to know first is that in their own language, the word Algonquin doesn't even exist. So apparently it came from the Huron when they met the French people, and they called them something that sounded like Algonquin, and that's how the word became known to everyone. But when I started learning the Anishinaabe language, then I discovered the real meaning of that word. First of all, that's how they call themselves. But the more you study the philosophy, the more you discover that actually it just means a human being. So they don't consider themselves towards geography or politics, or it's just me as a human being. And the more you learn the philosophy, the more you understand that human being is a bad translation for Anishinaabe. Actually, you need to understand the concept, and the concept means much more than just human being. When you say the word Anishinaabe, it automatically means that you are real, authentic, that you are in harmony with nature and with your own nature. And I think this is central when we want to try to explain what Mino Matisiwin means. Mino Matisiwin is a whole way of seeing life. And maybe you could talk about another very, very important teaching within all what's taught by the elders about how to be happy, how to lead a good life. And it's the medicine wheel. Maybe you've heard about the medicine wheel before, but for you, it was so useful, mainly because of all what you had to heal from the residential school. So maybe you can talk about that too, because it's such a precious teaching.
Well, the many medicine came in many, many years ago. The ancestors, they used that before. And everything, they all medicine, we use a symbolic, like a eagle, like a bear, a wolf, bison, or a turtle.
Turtle.
So they're all inside in the sickle. So I heard that many, many, many years ago. My daddy talked about that, the healing circle. Another thing coming, we call that the circle, the seven teaching from grandmother and grandfather and the sweat lodge. So we don't have no choice to go back a little bit behind the life because today is everything's different today. In town, you cannot do sweat lodge because there's too many noises around and too many people coming to see what's happened in the sweat lodge. So the medicine is a medicine, so we protect that. So the people come in for that, they needed 3 days before to go inside in the sweat lodge. And I would like to talk about the healing cycle. Is we learned first when I went to the resident school, many bad things come in to see me. So now first thing what I do, um, to look behind me teaching, to find a really strong medicine is in the forest, to go back where I'm from, my traditional land. So I need a more spirit around me. And I found that in the forest or on the river, all over the place, on the mountain. So sometime I'm gonna go down, sit down, where's a big tree. So I need a communication with the Mother Earth. All different medicine, you find that all in the forest. Just when I listen to bear singing, the many things coming inside in me to be well. Mino Matisiwin coming to see me. And the seventh teaching, we use that. I use that every day for me.
Maybe
When I wake up,
since he wants to talk about the 7 teachings, maybe if you have pen and pencil next to you, you could draw a circle in 7 parts. And it's his way of teaching the 7 teachings. Maybe you've heard them before with other elders, but he's going to give you the teachings that he considers more important. And you want them to draw?
yeah, please.
If you can, if you can.
And look if it's a very well your circle.
If it's perfect.
If it's a perfect, yeah. What do you say?
Is your circle perfect? Yes or no?
No, I
He's
like
happy.
that. That's I like that. That's a Mino Matisiwin. If you see your cycle very well, it's like a machine.
And we're not machines.
So
We're Anicinapek.
I like a little bit crooked.
Yeah.
That's a life. That's a Mino Matisiwin. So well, put just one dark.
No, okay. You draw a circle in 7 parts. Okay. Like a pie.
Piece of pie. Yeah.
And are the 7 parts perfect? No. And that's good. And then in the middle, he wants you to right in the middle of your circle to draw a little dot.
One inside and one outside.
So
Anywhere where you want.
another dot anywhere outside on your sheet of paper, outside the circle.
Are you ready? Okay, let's go. The first thing, that's example. When I went to the resident school, I received many things very bad. I don't want to use the judgment. The first thing. That's what happened. That's the life. I received many things from my mom, like a love. That's one thing. The first one is a love. Write down love. Sometimes it's very hard every day. What you're doing, emotion, you work too hard, and sometimes you lost love. So go back because you go too far. If you have the big motion coming to see you, Just stop everything. Think about you. Give it to you, love. You first. My daddy told me, give it to you first. Everything. After is a free. You can use, you can help people after. Start by yourself. Give it to you, love. And the second, to be proud. Who are you?
Proud of who you are. So you can write pride.
Inside in the circle, healing circle, you have a four colors. One yellow, red, black, and white. Okay? So imagine the color is a people, like a yellow people, it's Asiatic Chinese people, red people, Anishinaabe people, the black people, the man of color and woman color, and the white people. We are the same people because we are the same blood. You from very, very, very far. You from, imagine ancestors behind you. Don't forget your ancestors because your blood coming from them. That's why today I am an Anishinaabe. I'm very proud to be Anishinaabe, my nation.
You want
So,
them to be proud of where they come from, and the skin color is not so important. We're all the same.
no, your blood. First, your blood is very important because we are brothers and sisters.
We
There's
all
no
come from the
difference,
same.
people here.
Mm.
So another one. So the respect to you, respect to you, just for you first. After you can share after people. Respect for me, I lost that. I lost that many years ago by alcohol, too much alcohol, because I had a very sufferance. What happened with them school? So what happened? So after me, some drink, because I lost everything. I threw everything. And after that, when I heard the first time, Mino Matisiwin, and I start to work just for me, for myself.
First.
First, me, to help people after. Another one, number 4, acceptance. What happened to me? Acceptance who I am. So it was a very hard to work with the acceptance. I found that too inside in my sweat lodge, teaching by my grandfather, my dad, my mom. You find everything in the sweat lodge. It's a good medicine. I do often today sweat lodge for myself, for my wife, or for family. We are very lucky to stay have a sweat lodge. That's a heritage.
Mhm. I'd
Yeah.
like to add a little something about acceptance. It's so important. Another thing I learned when I started being taught the language and the philosophy is that in the Anishinaabe language, the word forgiveness doesn't exist. But the teaching is always about acceptance. That's more a concept that is used. And that made me realize that forgiveness is a beautiful thing when I ask someone for forgiveness when I did something wrong. But there's a trap with that concept because very often when somebody else has done something to us, we will wait for that person to ask for forgiveness in order to be free. But the thing is that sometimes, or most of the time, that never comes. And then you're still a prisoner of your story. And that's what the elders did with you when you came out of the residential schools. That's the teaching they kept telling you: accept what happened. And nowadays, maybe it will come, but so far, the missionary people who did all those horrible things to you never came to ask for forgiveness. But since they said you have to accept, that's how the road to healing could come. So it's a very, very important thing to understand.
Um, acceptance was a very, very, very long for healing.
Process, yeah.
So I go day by day for that, to accept what happened to me, my story. And number 5, to be true, who I am. To use that, la vérité,
To be truthful, to be
everything.
Mm.
Before I scared to talk about that, what happened to me. So that time I think about my friends, and I told and myself inside in me, if I talk about abuse sexual to my brothers and my sisters, so I'm gonna lose all many people. So I use a judgment often to myself, to me. So when I find a true, it's me. The other one is honesty.
honesty.
Honesty. There's a difference because every day. That's why I would like for me, for myself, to believe who I am, Anicinapek, the little boy today. And the other one is the last one. So I'm looking for every day to be peace
Peaceful.
and love
Mm.
and to be free and to be free. That's just my circle, my healing circle. I give it to you 7 teaching. The other one is only 4 inside.
Yeah, but
Okay. I would like to say first, when you do the point in the circle,
yeah. So these are 7 very important teachings that he thought that they were important for you to understand Mino Matisiwin. And you remember that little dot that you did outside the circle? So you want to explain?
inside is a very strong that you to protect everything around the 7 teaching.
You are protected.
Yeah. And if you go outside, is a difference. Outside, you don't have nothing. We call that burnout. So for myself is a very strong teaching. Very, very strong teaching. I never forget to say, my sisters, me grudge everything you give it to me to share my brothers and sisters like you. Now I know you. You are my sisters. You are my brother because we are the same colored blood.
Mm. So when you are in the center of the circle, you have all that protection. And maybe one of the teaching is not as strong as the other right now in your life, but these are like guidelines that the others give us so that we are going in our life with life, full of life within ourselves. And I don't know if you understood what he meant by that little dot outside the circle, but basically it meant that when we are outside of those teachings, it's like if there's emptiness around us and there's no protection, and we go on with our life and we're very vulnerable. We can feel also very empty. So he wanted to go towards the 7 teachings, but there are also the main teachings of the medicine wheel. But we wanted also to give you the chance to go into smaller groups and have a little talking circle together. We could talk about Mino Matisiwin for days and weeks and months. It's a whole life of studying a philosophy and a way of life, really. But I think that with those 7 teachings, it was a good idea because it's giving you guidelines and also maybe inspiration for a talk with other people in the next minutes. So we will go into breakout rooms. And the question that you can have together is, what am I receiving from the teachings of the 7 teachings? And what is the teaching that is really talking to me the most today? So I suppose that you've been experiencing a talking circle before, but if not, usually we would be sitting together in person, but we discovered that we can do talking circles on the internet quite easily. That was our main discovery since the pandemic. So what you do, if ever you have an object that has some meaning for you, for us, we received eagle feathers, so of course they're important, but also we like we have this rock here that we really like. We call them the mushuma, the stones. And this one has a nice little fox painted on it. It can be a stick, it can be whatever is meaningful to you if you have it. And then when you speak, you hold it in your hand. And when you don't have the talking stick, then you have the responsibility to listen. And it's such a beautiful gift to give someone to be there just to listen. So you'll be in groups of about 10 to 15 people, and you'll have to decide who starts and also maybe decide to name among your group somebody who's going to be the keeper of time, just to make sure that everybody has enough time to speak. And then when you're finished, then you designate another person. You have all the names written on the screen. So you give your talking stick to somebody else, and then that person speaks. And the nice thing about it is that then you don't know when it's going to be your turn. And we love it, because otherwise what happens is that that little hamster starts running, and then you start thinking, okay, what am I going to talk about? What am I going to say? And we don't want that. We want you to be spontaneous.
Surprise.
Yeah. So when it comes to you, then the real words will come. And if you have nothing to say, you have nothing to say, and that's fine. So you just don't know now what you're going to talk about in a couple of minutes. So we have half an hour. So it's quite plenty of time for those little rooms. And that makes you experience the beauty of the talking circles. It's so beautiful. So the question is, what really strikes you about the 7 teachings and the concept of Mino Matisiwin right now? And when it's finished, then we come back to the main hall together, and then we will take your questions. Do you want to add something?
No,
It's okay. No. So, okay. So Tyler is around. He's our magician, our wizard, and he's going to break out rooms. Sébastien, do you have something else we should add, or
I thank you. So just a reminder that the Francophone, the French translation will not be happening in your circle, but you are free to share en français ou en anglais ou en une langue autochtone if that's, you know, or in an indigenous language if that's what you're feeling. And I think that's it. I think, yeah, well, I think we're ready to break you out into breakout groups for a half an hour. And if you feel, like I said, just to repeat, like something's happening in the room and you feel, you can always leave that room as well. That's always an option. Yeah, hope you have a great circle time. Welcome back, everybody. We are now moving into our question period. I hope that the circles were powerful and for all of you. Some of you have put some questions in the chat function, and I'll be asking those to Dominique and Marie-Josée. I'll start with a question though for the two of you. Is there something, so I believe you joined a circle. Were you were with some participants?
Yeah, we had a beautiful circle, really. Yeah.
Great.
So yeah, okay, you can go with the question.
I would love, well, the question is for you. Is there something that you heard or that you experienced in the circle that, without sharing anybody's personal stories, but that you want to share about? Is there something that struck you?
I'll translate just quickly the question to Shomis so that he understands. Il demande s'il y a quelque chose dans notre cercle de parole qui t'a frappé. Mais il nous demande à tous les deux. Je vais te laisser commencer. One thing that struck me is that two of the people felt obliged to start by acknowledging the land where they were on, which is a beautiful, beautiful thing. But I wish that this doesn't come with guilt. And one thing that is so beautiful that came from your father and other elders that I had the chance to know here is that if you believe into the medicine wheel, the four colors he mentioned, in the fact that we all come from the same ancestors, we are brothers and sisters. So at the same time that we recognize the land we are on, I hope that this doesn't bring guilt. This is not Mino Matisiwin. Everybody needs to feel free within themselves. We have to acknowledge the past, not to cover our eyes and our ears, and not to want to listen to what really happened. But if we want to go towards reconciliation, we have to have joy. And my dream is that one day we stop talking about just what went wrong with the First Nations, but we start really knowing how wonderful their philosophy, their traditions are, and that we can all become really proud of being Canadians with this heritage. We can come from many different countries and live here now, but this country was built on a land where a philosophy and a knowledge and a culture that is so precious that can influence our whole life together. And I hope that one day it's going to become really something that brings joy to all our hearts. So that's one thing that really struck me.
The one thing a woman asked, they all think we put on the 7 teaching.
Mm-hmm.
And she asked me, can I use
one of them?
Yeah, one
more,
of them.
Or all together? Or...
Yeah. So your choice depends what happened to you yesterday. So when I wake up in the morning, the first thing the question I have in the morning, so what happened to me yesterday? Est-ce que j'ai quelqu'un j'ai blessé?
Did I hurt someone?
So sometime I talk about respect. So if something happened to my friends, there's no respect to him. Peut-être que j'ai été trop loin.
Maybe I went too far.
Et I call him sometime, someday, to say to apology.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I feel better after. Now another thing, I give it to you 7 teaching. If you want to change inside there, change it if you want. Depends on you. That's yours. That's yours. You understand? Est-ce qu'il comprend?
So the 7 teachings he gave you were the ones he wanted to share with you today, but for him, the most important thing is for you to decide what is really crucial in your life, and you can decide what you put in your own circle, and your circle can evolve during your year depending on what you need to learn. And one little thing also you could do after the workshop is to turn your paper around,
Yeah.
draw another circle, make again 7 parts, and then you can write your 7 main weaknesses or fears. And that could be interesting also, just to have a look at what's going on within yourself. It's your own weather forecast. People keep asking us, what should we do for the climate change? Well, we have to change our own inner climate first. You know, what's going on the planet right now is just a reflection of what's going on into our hearts and minds. We're too it's too hot. We're burning a little bit too much inside, and that's why. Maybe we have other questions too,
Yeah,
if you want to
okay.
add something. Or
No, it's okay.
Sebastien, you tell us if you have other questions, because we can keep on talking otherwise.
Well, thank you very much for sharing that. The importance of acknowledging territory, but also not having guilt, and that reconciliation needs to have joy.
Mm.
And that the teachings are for people to make their own, you know, to look at themselves.
For him, yeah.
Yeah. Great. Okay. Well, one of the participants today is asking Dominic if he would explain a little bit more the difference between truth and honesty for him.
Yeah. I work for myself with the 7 teaching by resident school, what happened to me. So to be true, so what I'm doing every day, supposed to be for me to help myself. So I can, je peux pas être malhonnête
I cannot be
envers moi.
dishonest.
So that's the 2 difference. To be true is a true. What you're doing, what you say, what you look. To be honesty,
Honest.
so for my wife, je sois honnête avec toi. Comprends?
Yeah, he says he has to be honest towards me
Or your friends,
or your friends. Yeah.
you boss, you boss to be honesty to your boss. You need your boss too. You want to know teaching too, because see, if he's a boss, he's an Anishinaabe too, so he need a help. So j'aimerais être honnête avec lui
I'd like to be honest towards him
pour qu'il soit bien lui
so
aussi.
that he also feels good.
Si je suis honnête avec moi, je suis capable de donner honnêteté pour être
If
honnête
I'm
avec qui que ce
honest
soit.
towards myself, then I can be honest towards the others.
Mais ça prend la vérité.
But first, you need truth.
S'il n'y a pas de vérité, il
If
n'y a
there's
pas de
no truth,
réconciliation.
there's no reconciliation either. It's quite similar. Don't worry about it, but it's quite similar. But from what he's saying, for him, truth comes first, and then after that, you have honesty.
Honnête, c'est la personne, puis la vérité, c'est toi.
Okay, so for him, truth is towards yourself, and that brings honesty towards the others. That's how he makes the distinction. But it's very personal.
Well, thank you very much. That's how the truth is very important in your teachings towards yourself and others. To not deceive yourself or others is very important, it sounds like. Great. We've got a few people here who are asking how they can learn more teachings about Anishinaabe teachings and sources of wisdom. What would you recommend for people if they want to learn more about this? How would you suggest they do that?
Est-ce que tu as compris? Il demande comment ils peuvent apprendre plus de la sagesse Anishinaabe.
We are free every day. If you're heard gathering somewhere, just go. Go. Don't scare. It's free for everybody. So we need a teaching from you too, not just from us. So we want to know together. And myself, all elders, they chose me. I was a very young, 7.5 years old, when I received the first eagle feather. Same time I received a teaching. I was very young. I don't know nothing about the little boy, what they do. Some they go to the sport, some they go to another thing. And myself, the elders, they told me, you stay with us because we need you. So, so I'm very lucky man today to receive that teaching. And that's what I do before. I start to look all over the place. Where's the teaching? Who do teaching today? Sometimes it's a grandmother. So the medicine woman, I heard often my mom to talk about the medicine woman. We call that the moon time. So that's many teaching. So keep going, go. So if you find where's the teaching, go. You may be inside in the Friendship Center, maybe in the reserve. Come on to my reserve. Before the government said white people cannot go in the reserve. Not anymore. Not anymore. Door is open.
What is really important, maybe you were expecting us to tell you, look at this website or read that book. Although we wrote a book, but for us, the most important thing is oral transmission. And we will fight a lot for it to stay alive. And for us, it's a little bit tricky when you start reading things on the internet, or because there's so much information lacking. And the main information comes from the heart, from human being to human being. So that you cannot have that in the book. But if I can do a little bit of publicity, we teach. So if you can come to Quebec, if you don't live too far from us, right now with the pandemic, it's difficult to have real workshops with real people in person, but we give teachings also on the internet. But the main thing for us is to be able to share And we created that little cultural center. So if ever one day you come to Quebec, please come visit us. Otherwise, as you said, there are elders around, and the main way to approach them is first to come always with your tobacco or a medicine plant like sage, or and then you offer something first to say, grandmother or grandfather, I would have to ask you a question. Can I give you tobacco for my question? And if you do it this way, it's done with so much respect that it's really difficult for them to say
Don't
no.
refuse it.
You cannot
Okay.
refuse. That's the trick.
Another thing, if you heard, maybe you heard that powwow. Did you
Mm.
hear that powwow?
Yeah, they know power.
So today is a different powwow. What I saw is a little bit of business to sell everything. We don't see that before. And just go. I'm sure you find a grandmother there, grandfather, the elders. So sitting there, just wait somebody coming to see him or her by just question. Lots of room, lots of place for you. Just go in the powwow, just look. Maybe you can talk with the dancer. Dancers? The dancer?
Mm.
No. Just ask her, dress. What's the line on the face? What's the eagle feather? That's a very gift for them to when you ask us something.
Mm.
That's what happened to me today. Yeah, I grew up again today, more strong because we are together.
Mm. We don't want to talk too much, just to make sure that you have other questions and we can answer them.
Great. Well, thank you for that. One, even though you said, and I heard that, to seek out with courage, don't be scared, seek out the knowledge keepers, approach them respectfully, the oral tradition. Somebody is also asking if you really did write a book, and or if it was figuratively, and if you did write a book, what is the title of your book?
We wrote it in French first.
Okay.
It came out in 2011, so it's going to be 10 years. Wow, this summer. The title in French is On nous appelait les sauvages. And the very good news is that it just came out in English a few days ago. So in English, it's called They Called Us Savages. And the publishing house is in Winnipeg. And as far as I'm concerned, I know that it was out on Amazon and things like that, and then it will come into your bookstores gradually. But already on the internet, you can have it, and we're proud. We're really happy. It's finally in English. They call us savages. Yes.
That's that's not my philosophy to write that in the book. The many years, my grandfather William Commanda, he told me to
Your
write that.
story.
Yeah, and so I accept that. It was a very hard for me to talk about that resident school. We took a 1 year and a half to write the book. Too much motion. So sometimes we stop 1 month and then we start again. It's okay. Today is good for so therapy. For me, is a very strong therapy for me to write that book for people like me to help them for resident school.
One thing that we want you to know is that it might be a little difficult at one point because Dominic really speaks about his time in the residential school, and it was to try to find the balance between telling it a few things about what really happened and not to be like a victim. And we wanted the book to be healing. So don't worry, if even though there are difficult things to read, most of the book is about healing, reconciliation, and how if he was able to go through all what he went through, everybody is able to forgive, to heal, to be happy after whatever happened. I think that's the main message that Shumis can give.
I'm not scared to talk about that today. What happened to me is a story for me today. So one thing, what happened to me today is a gift.
Mm.
I'm not I'm not victim what happened resident school. I am teacher today. So it's not easy. It's many things come in sometimes very strong. That's why I here's a seven teaching to respect to me, to accept that, and to give me love first myself, to give it to you after free.
Mm.
That's why I am today.
And in the book, we also talk about the prophecy of the seven fires. I don't know if you've heard of it before. It's a very, very important prophecy coming from the Anishinaabe people. And I think I'd like to end with that, unless you have another question. But that prophecy is many, many centuries old. And the elders, the ancient Anishinaabe, knew that one day the people with white skin would come to their continent, their land, and that after that there might be a time of very hardship, very difficult things to go through. But after, there could come a time for healing and reconciliation. And one day when I was smoking my sacred pipe, I thought, wow, in my life, I had dreams that came true. I was able to dream of something and see it happening in my life. And then I realized that a dream can also be collective. I realized that those ancient Anishinaabe people had a dream. And here we are. I realized that we are the answer to their dream. In his time, when he was a child at the residential school, there was no way for him to think that one day we would be sitting with you, coming from all parts of the country, listening to the teachings of the elders and being open to what they have to say. And you see, we are the answer to their dream. So it means that now we have to have a strong dream too, for ourselves, but also collectively. And then I'm sure we can change so many things for the next generations in that way. So thank you very much for being there for that. Thank you very much.
Maria Jose, I'm seeing some claps, and Dominic, thank you so much. We have a lot of gratefulness in the comments for your sharing today. Merci beaucoup. A lot of very powerful. Of course, we got to most questions. We couldn't get necessarily to all questions in an hour and a half workshop. But I think I can speak for a lot of people here and say that we were touched and made stronger today from your teachings. And so we want to thank you both for that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much, my brothers and my sisters. Thank you.
I really hope we can see you next year. Really, that would be wonderful. In real.
You know, in real life would be incredible, and this was special as well. And as you said, Moosehide is an annual event once a year. I mean, the work of addressing violence is every day. But we
Yeah.
come together at least once a year. And so thank you. We hope that we can both see you next year and your teachings can spread.